Today is a good day, my friends, for we have been given a tantalizing taste of what we will be seeing in the upcoming Innistrad Midnight Hunt set.
The Magic Historian.
Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. My friends, I hope the day finds you well because we are here to discuss Innistrad Midnight Hunt. As is the case with every new release, Mark Rosewater has dropped a list of teasers upon us. Now, unlike traditional spoilers, this only gives us a tiny little window. We're down at the keyhole, peeking through. What you doing in there? Are you hugging? Are you making bread? What's going on in there? Let us in. So we got this little teaser here, little snippets about the set that'll give you an idea of kind of what cards could be, and I've got my own input to add into it as well. So let us not waste any more time. Let's dive in. It says Marrow's Midnight Hunt teaser. Before previews for Midnight Hunt officially begin, I thought it would be fun to do another of my duelist style teasers where I give tiny hints of things to come. Note that I'm only giving you partial information. And I do like the way that this feeds the imagination. So, first part of the list. First up, here are some things you can expect. 3 popular mechanics previously seen on Innistrad return. Now, the way that I'm viewing this is discussing basically mechanics that were created on Innistrad. So either in the original Innistrad block or in Shadows over Innistrad. The most technical way to interpret this is it could be 3 popular mechanics that have shown up in an Innistrad set but weren't necessarily created on Innistrad. But I've narrowed it down specifically to Innistrad mechanics. So maybe this list may not be the full level of options, and if you have something different to point out, by all means do so in the comments. But of all the unique Innistrad mechanics, I have made a list. So I'm going to go through them here for you. You've got the curse mechanic, which are enchantments that are placed upon players, like a witch's curse or a hex, which is a really flavorful concept. And the cards that have this curse concept have made their way out into commander decks and other places. So it's not just stuck with Innistrad, which is one of the reasons that it feels like it is a strong contender on this list, okay? The next mechanic is Fight. Fight was originally created on Innistrad. Now, Fight has become a pretty much evergreen sort of ability, so we see that across pretty much every set in existence, right? At this point, it's not really something they gloss over because it's Green's main mechanic for dealing with creatures. Then we've got Morbid. Morbid is a mechanic that basically activates or increases its power based on a creature going to the graveyard. That's the idea behind it. Morbid is literally, did you have a creature go to the graveyard? Then you get this benefit. Some cards don't trigger whatsoever unless you have a creature go to the graveyard, and certain cards just say, you were going to do this, but now do twice as much. Basically, it just increases the power of the effect. Then you have the transform mechanic, and this is things like werewolves and humans. So on one side you have a human, bloop, flips over into a werewolf. Obviously a very evocative and well-liked ability. Then we've got Delirium. Delirium is an ability that cares about you having 4 different types of permanents, or 4 different types of cards, I should say, in your graveyard. So as long as you have 4 different card types, then Delirium gives you bonuses. So it's supposed to be like this kind of madness of the mind, and you've lost part of your mind is the underlying concept behind Delirium. And then we have Investigate, which is the mechanic that makes clue tokens, and clue tokens can be sacrificed to draw cards. And the Investigate ability is also something that, if I'm not mistaken, has also made its way outside of Innistrad and has become a little more widespread. Then we have Meld. Meld is when you have the 2 creatures or 2 cards that come together to make a gigantic card, and that was used in the Shadows over Innistrad block because Emrakul, the massive Cthulian Eldrazi, was basically mutating everything. Then you have Escalate, which is, it's just in terms of mechanics, it's literally just you're moving up in levels. You can choose multiple modes on a modal spell. Escalate to me is one of the more muddy mechanics that didn't really translate that well. If you were to ask most people to name an escalate spell, they probably couldn't tell you. But if you were to name a spell that had escalate, they'd be like, I know that spell, but they don't associate it with escalate. I think escalate out of all of these is the most forgettable mechanic. And then the last mechanic is emerge, and this is basically creatures transforming into their Eldrazi counterparts, again, through the mutations caused by Emrakul. So, when I narrow it down, obviously Meld and Emerge can be immediately discarded because we don't have any Eldrazi influence on this plane. It's already been stated by Wizards of the Coast we're not going to be seeing Eldrazi, so those two are right out. Escalate I'm throwing off to the side because I don't believe it's a popular mechanic, right? So it basically narrows it down. Now I have 4 main contenders for these 3 popular mechanics previously seen on Innistrad. One is Fight, just because Fight obviously is everywhere. I would be flabbergasted if Fight did not appear in Innistrad Midnight Hunt. And then my other 3 top choices are Investigate, because Investigate has gone over very well. Cards like Tireless Tracker are very beloved, so that is something I can easily see happening. We're doing a werewolf set, and that's transforming, switching from humans into werewolves, so that also feels like an absolute given. And then my other choice is Curse, because I believe that Curse is a well-liked and evocative mechanic. So those are my top 4 picks for the top 3 mechanics we might see. Curse, Transform, Investigate, and Fight. All right, I know I spent a lot of time on that point. The other points don't have as much time spent on them because it's not as necessary. So the next point on the list is a new drawback for creature tokens that lets us create them cheaper. Now this is an interesting concept. This simply could be, let's say something normally generates a 3/3 or 4/4 creature token. This could be an ability where you pay less mana, but it's automatically created as a 1/1 creature, or gets a -2/2. Some sort of, basically, my view on this is the drawback is just going to be that it is automatically a smaller creature. Although the wording of this could literally mean they've come up with a brand new drawback in Magic the Gathering. Maybe it's a drawback that says when that creature token goes, your hand size decreases permanently by 1, or some really crazy thing that allows you to put it out cheaply, but has a huge sort of, you better not let this go the wrong way, right? I don't know. This is one of the points that I'm more interested in. I don't have a lot of amazing ideas for that one. This is one of the fascinating ones that I want to know more about. So, next up, a white card that could potentially draw you a card each turn. I gotta admit, this is underwhelming because it feels like for a long time now, white has been underserved. And a card that, wow, you could potentially draw a card each turn. What if the card says, pay 15 life, draw a card? Well, if you have a way to gain 15, you know what I mean? It's just nebulous enough that I can't get too excited about it. Next item on the list, a popular Innistrad card gets reprinted. Now, the way I interpreted this is it's a card from the original Innistrad. The fact that it's popular means that it's probably going to be one of the more expensive cards in the set as well, because Innistrad has been out of print for a long time. And when cards are popular, they tend to become more expensive. So it's a logical conclusion. I looked over the top number of cards from the set based on monetary value. And really what I drilled it down to was one major choice. So I'm going to show you the card that I believe is going to be the one we see reprinted. And that is Parallel Lives. So Parallel Lives is 1 and 3 for an enchantment that says if an effect would put 1 or more tokens onto the battlefield under your control, it puts twice that many of those tokens onto the battlefield instead. The flavor text says there will come a time when the only prey left will be each other. Ulrich of Crawlin' Horde Pack is the one who said that. And this is a werewolf-themed card. That's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with like werewolf/wolf theming in the artwork. The flavor text is literally from a werewolf lord kind of being, right? So to me, this feels like the most likely inclusion because it hits the werewolf theme. And on top of that, when we take a look at the list of what we're going through, there are multiple references 2 tokens. So I think Innistrad may have at least somewhat of a token matters mentality, especially when they're creating new drawbacks for creature tokens. I expect to see that iterated across a number of cards. So I genuinely do believe that that is the card we're most likely to see as this reprint. But there are tons of possibilities, right? Next up, a curse that transforms into a creature. Oh, never mind. I apparently missed this point when I read the list and went through. Oh, transform is one I expect to return. Right there, it's confirmed. Okay, never mind. Never mind, transform is absolutely one. I can't believe I didn't even see this one, because that's a really cool idea. A curse that transforms into a creature. Imagine like Curse of the Blood Wolf, and you put it on your opponent, and then each upkeep, they lose a life, and you put a counter on this. And after basically, let's say 5 counters, then it flips over into a Blood Wolf, which is like a 5/5 indestructible double strike. I mean, obviously I'm running away with the mechanics, but still, that is a cool concept. There's a lot of different ways that the curse transformation could trigger. So that's really fascinating to me, and I'm surprised I missed it the first time around. 2 permanents that can double something every turn. I mean, come on. This ties into the parallel lives concept as well. That just reinforces parallel lives, all right? Next after that, we've got a mythic cycle with you may pay cost any number of times. This to me screams multi-kicker. If you don't know what multi-kicker is basically you're casting a spell, you can pay an additional cost. Multi-kicker lets you pay that additional cost as many times as you want. And we're going to be getting a Street Fighter Magic product that features Chun-Li with multi-kicker that's already been announced and confirmed by Wizards of the Coast. So I feel like that's kind of a gimme. You do a mythic cycle, you've got 5 different multi-kicker cards, maybe one of those gets reprinted as a Chun-Li card in the secret layer. That's the vibe it's given me with all information that's available. Next up, we've got a 4 mana blue aura with you control enchanted creature. This is genuinely interesting and somewhat concerning for me. As somebody who likes to play a giant green tower deck, the idea of people being able to swipe my creatures for 4 mana is a bit unsettling. However, we all know that it's going to have some kind of drawback. There's going to be some kind of condition. You won't be able to play it on a creature above a certain power, above a certain casting cost. There'll be something to limit the reach of this enchantment. Maybe you have to sacrifice a creature of your own or pay a chunk of life, or maybe the enchantment doesn't stick around, but there's no way we're just going to get a 4 mana you control enchanted creature with no downside. That will not happen. I guarantee that. Next up, we got a popular tournament card in multiple formats, gets reprinted with its 5th piece of art. I'm going to admit, I have no guess for this one. None. I mean, when it came to looking up different cards and figuring out how many each had different pieces of art or whatever, that was beyond me. I was like, okay, man, I am not interested enough in digging into this. I'll put a pin in that and wait until somebody else figures it out or the reprint shows up, because that's too much work, my friends. Too much! After that, we got a character from Innistrad, once mentioned in a short story, finally gets a card in an Innistrad set. Now, the Innistrad story is one that I am not as familiar with, because there was a lot going on in my life when Innistrad originally came out, and it was a time that I wasn't as fully involved with Magic. They never made novels for it, so I would have to go back and read the stories to have a guess on this one. I have 0 clue. You guys feel free to let me know your guesses in the comments below on that one, because there have to be at least a few of you guys. I know you're lore lovers like me, so there's got to be some of you who have that information. So enlighten us in the comments. Now, next we have rules text that will be showing up on cards. So, if your life total would be reduced to 0 or less. This is one of those traditional style, if you were going to lose the game or whatever, your life total is going to be reduced to 0 or less. Instead, it's reduced to 1, and we've had cards that do that, right? Until the end of the turn, anytime your life total will be reduced to 0 or less, make it 1 instead. So it's either going to be one of those, or it's going to be something crazy, like if your life total will be reduced to 0 or less, go back to 20 life, draw a new hand, like the old school, what was that, Lich's Mirror? Something like that. Something like that. Next line, this spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature you attacked with this turn. That's got a red or green vibe to it, right? I mean, we're dealing with a werewolf set, so it's going to be a creature-heavy set. That feels like an ability that fits in. On to the second half. As card name enters the battlefield, Note your life total. Oh, you know what? Maybe that ties in with the other line that we saw. If your life total will go to 0 or less, it could be instead set it to the noted life total, right? That could be that. Like when you put this guy out, you're set at 10 life. He's some kind of stasis maintainer. So, oh, you're going down to 0? Nope, boom, back to the 10 you were at. I mean, that's a wild guess, but Now we got put a slime counter on up to one other target creature. Interesting. Does that turn it into a actual slime? Does that modify, like, is it creatures with slime tokens on them are 3/3 creatures? You know, who knows? The next line says, creature tokens you control lose all abilities and have base power and toughness 3/3. That feels like it could be an enchantment. Like, you know how they make enchantments that give +1/+1 to all creature tokens? It could function similarly to that. I could see it as probably either a green or a blue enchantment, most likely green. And I mean, if you have a bunch of little 1/1 tokens or 0/1 plant tokens, all of a sudden they're 3/3s. That's not too shabby. Also, this would be hilarious to play against. There's that one red creature, that goblin, who every time it hits you, it gives you like a 0/1 artifact token that you can't block and does a damage to you every turn. How amazing would it be to let somebody smack you with that a few times, give you a few of those little skulls that are pinging away at you, and then you go, oh, bad news. By the way, they're 3/3s now and they lost their abilities. Get some! I know how good that feels because I've actually Kenrith transformationed one of those tokens in the past and went, oh, you thought I had a 0/1? Nuh-uh, son, I got a 3/3 elephant and it's going to trunk your neck up. Next line. Each instant and sorcery in your graveyard has. This is, I'm guessing, flashback? What else could it be? What would be the point of giving? What are you going to do? Instants and sorcery cards in your graveyard have lifelink, and then you cast it, and it's like, oh, now it's on the stack, so lifelink doesn't matter because it doesn't, you know? So I'm guessing it's some way to either replay them from your graveyard with flashback or remove them from your, like, exile them from your graveyard for some kind of benefit. Next line, instants and sorcery spells you cast cost X less to cast, where X is card name's power. This is a cool concept. Some kind of might mage. The more powerful I get, the easier it is for you to feel the flow of magic and blast out your instants and sorceries. Clearly that has a very red or possibly blue, or maybe a combination of the two, feel, at least to me, right? That seems, if you had to choose a color to put that ability in, it's gonna be red or blue most likely. Although I guess technically you could also move it into green because green does care about having big beefy creatures, but it feels less likely because green isn't a big instant and sorcery matters style color, right? After that, we've got put that many +1/+1 counters on card name, then create that many 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. Ooh, that is a big feeling ability, right? Like right away, you are growing whatever creature you have to begin with, and then you're making a huge zombie army to go with it. And it always feels good making a big token army, but there's something extra flavorful about making an army of zombies as they just like rise up out of nowhere. Well, I guess not out of nowhere, but you know what I'm saying. It totally has that Innistrad half hopeless kind of feel, and we've seen a number of different iterations of here you go, one card gives you a massive zombie army, and it always feels great and on point. I mean, clearly this is going to be a black card. There's no way around that one. Next up, at the beginning of your end step, if you have exactly 13 life. Wait, didn't we already have that card? Triskaidekaphobia? Something like that? Is this a new variation? It's probably going to be another card that cares about 13, but there is theoretically the possibility they may just reprint pre-existing card for this. So I don't know. It could be either or. I do like the unlucky 13 concept where we're going to hinge everything around that. I think that's a fun idea for Innistrad. And then the last ability that we're going to talk about here is you may cast any number of the copies without paying their mana cost. So I'm guessing it's like probably something like exile any number of instants and sorceries from your graveyard, copy them, and then cast any number of the copies without paying their cost. Something along those lines, right? And then to end it all off, we have a number of different creature types to talk about. We have a hippogriff spirit. How funky is that, right? Griffins are common. Well, maybe not common in Magic, but you know what I mean? Hippogriff is a different kind of beast. We don't normally see that in Magic frequently. Then we've got human soldier werewolf. That admittedly isn't terribly surprising or special feeling. Another dragon egg. That one is definitely interesting to me. I wonder how that's going to turn out. Then we've got a number of horrors. We've got a leech horror, which is, just thinking about that, like a gigantic leech. Leeches are so disgusting and off-putting, like in Stand By Me. You know what I'm talking about? Now, I'm dating myself here, but whatever. Then we've got fungus horror. All right, not quite as horrifying. Plant horror, which feels really close to fungus horror. What's the difference between fungi and plants? That's really, really splitting hairs. Then we've got Drake horror. The horrifically released a new song. Started at the bottom and we're here. All right, then we got a demon dog. It's the worst hot dog you've ever eaten in your life. A legendary ooze and a legendary vampire noble. Okay, all right. I think actually, didn't we already? Oh, no, wait, that was a commander card. Never mind. Yeah. All right, so that wraps up the teaser list, my friends. Let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comments below. A big thank you to all of my patrons for supporting my channel. If you like what's going on here, like the video so YouTube knows it. If you love what I'm doing, hop on my Patreon, and I will see all of you, my friends, in the next video. Today is a good day because we have been given a tantalizing taste of what is coming in Midnight Innistrad Hunt.